everybody. What Hen Dog would say, what's up? Hello, world, okay?
Good afternoon, folks.
Afternoon.
We are here, and I am Sharita Walden with my co-host Ryan. Yeah,
Right.
I'm up here still getting ready, y'all. Listen,
And I'm
listen.
Ryan Jones, and welcome to By Any Means podcast. It's always wonderful to come back here to this
It is.
place.
It is. So why don't you all go ahead, take that moment. You know what I'm about to do. I got my phone. I'm about to go ahead and share the
Uh-huh.
stream as it starts. You can
Mm-hmm.
share our YouTube station too because we need more followers. We need you all to pick up, okay? We need you all to get in there and get on top of, let's see.
And
You know,
then while we
go ahead.
doing that, so I don't know if y'all seen it or not, but my wonderful co-host had another birthday, another what did you call it? Anniversary of birth.
Yes,
Okay,
anniversary
she
of birth,
had
y'all.
another anniversary of birth. And so we definitely want to celebrate you and show our appreciation and our thanks to God that He's kept you another year. You
Oh,
know, many things that happened between the last 365 days, but still here, still smiling, still going forward. And we almost done with this Aries season. I can't wait because Taurus
listen,
season is fastly approaching. Okay, fastly
listen,
approaching.
listen. And if it wasn't for the Aries, if it wasn't for us amazing Aries, right?
Yeah.
Like, let them know, y'all. If you're an Aries, I need you to hop in because we're about to have a lively discussion. So, yes, thank you, Ryan, and to my team. I
Yeah.
got wonderful gifts, but I'm gonna show you the one gift I'm almost done with already, y'all. Y'all want to know? And for those of you that know me, that know me, you know this hit my heart. Boston baked beans. Y'all see that? A big box, not the little.
Okay.
When I say it made me smile and I instantly broke that box open, like I wasn't waiting for nothing. And my A1C is fine for those of you that are concerned.
That was gonna be my next question. Okay.
Right. Yes, but this was my 47th spin around the sun. Thank God. All praises be
Yeah.
because I'm here. My family celebrated me. I'm grateful, and I'm grateful to be in company and connection with the wonderful folks I work here with, my team, my leaders. Um, these are all leaders around me, and my colleagues across the United States. So I am thrilled to be able to share this space because it's something about being able to share the space with people who do the real work, right?
For sure.
Because there's a lot of imposters out here. There's a lot of actors. It's a lot of performers.
Okay. Well, since we are talking about that, yesterday we had a wonderful, wonderful
Mm.
turnout and time meeting with our um, candidates for our local election that's coming up, and wonderful time of them coming out and not just talking about what they are campaigning
Mhm.
about, but they also joined in with us while we had a kit making party, and they didn't just stand around and just talk. They actually put their hands to the plow and with us, and we made kits on drug testing kits on yesterday, and it was such an awesome time to see the community as well as our local candidates join in together in the same space.
Mhm.
We were outside, and it was actually truly, it turned out a lot better than what I was what I thought. It really
Yeah.
did. Minus the sun, it was awesome.
We had a wonderful, wonderful turnout, you guys. We usually do our kit making parties, what, every other month, right?
Yes.
And we decided as a team to do a special edition. The primaries are coming up real quickly. Next month, people will be exercising their right to vote. And one thing that we shared with our community, because what makes this special, you guys, is we partner with vocal voices of community activists and leaders. And they had their members and leaders meeting. So not only did the candidates show up and show out for our kit making party, but they attended the members meeting, which
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
got a chance to listen to, people in community sharing what about the issues that are really happening. So that was pretty cool. But when we do these kind of things, you guys, we didn't want it to be a performance.
Right.
So we asked questions on the spot. They didn't have time to go back and create something. And we had about six candidates, people running for office for mayor. We had district council candidates. We had state representative candidates. So people showed up. They had kids had to come because it was the end
Hmm.
of the day, but they showed community that despite what's going on, that this is important to them. So I feel like this, Ryan. All those candidates that showed up, they should all get a spot. So, like, say if
Definitely.
somebody else got voted into their spot, they should be the ones getting the other spots
Yeah.
because they
Most
came out and did real boots on the ground effort. So, Ryan, how does this event play into what we're talking about today in this month?
So as we are continuing talking about as we talk about celebrating diversity and inclusion during this month of April. And so we're going to be diving into today how implicit bias and outreach. And we're going to be talking about who are we missing? Who are
Mm,
we missing when we go when we have these conversations, when we do this work? Who is missing, and what can we do to get them there? And what can we do to get them to be heard? And so we definitely have our brother, okay, my big dog,
I
okay.
guess y'all see him in the comments.
Okay.
Right. You see him talking mad shit. And
Okay.
I'm saying it like that before you get on this stage, because that's the thing. He think, no, I'm just playing. No, but for real, Jose, my teammates. I had the wonderful privilege of partnering with Bree, another one of our co-hosts you've seen on here, and she's becoming a regular. We're about to put her
Yeah.
in some slots.
No, for real.
Um, but and Zay. So make sure we share this live with them, Jose, when you get on the set. But I want to share something about Jose. He's real special, y'all. And I mean, not special. I'm not talking about him like that. He's a real special person, human in my heart. When I met Jose, I met him by watching him doing the work. Because as you know, I've met a lot of performers and actors in our time. So when I meet people, I watch them first, and I got a privilege of watching Jose really impact audiences. When I say he comes in strong and hard, he does. So what you see is not pretend. He is this way with everyone that he meets. But you know what it is, Ryan? You know what it is about him?
Come on.
It's all out of love.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all out of love. That's just how it comes. And even if it stings a little bit, it's because there's love and passion in that. So, he's been in his work. We'll let him give a little time to share what he does, but so you can know why that energy shows up consistently.
Yeah.
Jose is always in there. He's always engaging, but he's really about the community. So I'm glad he's here for this discussion today.
Indeed. In fact, we might as well just go ahead and bring them on. We can get
Let's
this
go on
started.
ahead.
Let's see. What's up?
What's going on?
Pac-Man.
I like that introduction y'all gave. You know what I mean? I know Shrita was killing her not to just like go in on me. I appreciate that. Thanks, y'all.
For
Thanks
sure.
for
For
having me.
sure.
So Jose, can you share with people what you do, where you at, where you're from, and why, real briefly, before we get into these, so Ryan could get us in this discussion.
Oh yeah. Well, Jose Martinez. Right now, I work for National Harm Reduction Coalition as a capacity building and Hep C coordinator. And for the most part, I do a lot of trainings, but in my eyes, the bread and butter of my job is the support that I give people throughout the country. So
Mm,
on the New York City level, I provide like a very general and broad support system for the Hep C navigators, whatever that looks like, So that might be me, teaching them how to, link people into care, how to communicate with the with the participants, stuff like that. I started out as a Hep C navigator, so that's how I'm able to like provide them that support. But then there could be, personal support they need, just to talk, because for a lot of peers, even in New York, they don't really have a mental health support system
yeah,
set in place for them. It could be, workforce development. I help them, create their resumes, job placements. People reach out to me a lot for like if I know any peers that need work. So, and I also provide a general support, that same support system with just a little less because nationally it's hard to be placing peers, but I give them all of that other um support and stuff. So, and I do that under Peer Up, which is a program that I created for National Harm Reduction Coalition, intended to bring all of our people together, the peers, community members, all of that, and then providing that wraparound support.
wow,
That's
thank
a
you.
lot, and that's good. And we really we thank you, definitely, and for joining and taking the time to sit with us today.
Mhm.
So as we've been talking about this inclusion and diversity, and so today's episode, we're going to talk about the implicit biases in outreach and who we are missing. And so I
Mm,
want to first start off by let's go to Webster and define what implicit bias is. It says that it's the unconscious attitudes, stereotypes, and associations that automatically affect our understanding, actions, and decisions.
mm,
And so as we're talking about this, and with this definition, we're keeping it in our mind, and as we're talking about harm reduction and outreach and the work that we do, because if we're honest, even in harm reduction spaces, even with the best intentions, we don't always reach everyone equally.
right.
We don't reach them equally, and so some folks are often they may be overlooked, underserved, and some lives even slip through the cracks.
Mm,
And so with that, when Jose, when you um, hear implicit biases, what does it mean to you personally? Not and personally and professionally. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think we all have them, and that's something that we speak about regularly. Even when I first came into this field, I had a lot of biases. Some of them implicit, some of them explicit, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And I think that how can I word this? I mean, thinking about when I first started in harm reduction, like in 2015, when I first got introduced to it in like 2008, looking at who was the leaders then, and then
mm-hmm,
who's responsible for speaking about our community now, I think that I think that there is an implicit bias against certain people, primarily people. Not even people. I can't even say black and Puerto Ricans and people of color no more, um because we see a certain people now, and it's like educated people. So I think that there is an bias, implicit bias against everybody else who doesn't fit that description, who
mm,
dresses even like me. um Even people that are receiving services, they are not uplifted to certain spaces to speak about certain issues that they need to speak about, because it's not a good look for the organization. So
Mhm.
now when we start looking at who's responsible for speaking for our people, they're a specific person who are speaking a specific way, you
Mhm.
know, and yeah, so I think that if we look at who's responsible for, these certain conversations and spaces, and then the people who are missing is the people who are from the community. We don't see them no more and
Mhm.
stuff. I had somebody in my group, and I leave this at that, where they was like, I'm just waiting for me to be able to put, I was an amazing crack seller on my resume and be
Mhm.
happy with it. You understand? And that just speaks a lot. It's a certain person that's kept out of spaces because it's a bad look. It's not a good
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's interesting that we're talking about this in school in class right now. That's what we're talking about is biases, implicit and explicit, and how they can they can actually they can do both, and they can enhance and they can also harm. If we're not aware of them. So often people are trying to discount, like when people walk in the room and tell me I don't have any. I'm like, oh my God, you are not aware. That's the first thing I think because it's like we all have them. We all have them. They play the messaging unless you have never looked at a billboard or had to drive down streets where you saw messaging. Unless you never watched TV, a program, seen commercials, heard the news, heard songs, if you have been disconnected and like a hermit in the world where you had nothing, no messaging, then I would say, okay, maybe you don't have
Mhm.
anything to grasp from. But we all have been introduced to different ideas, even our parents, our families, how we think about other people and other cultures. So it's just interesting when I hear people say that, especially in this work. I'm always side eye like, you don't have none.
And really, it's actually learned. It's not always intentional, but it is
Right.
learned, and we learn it through the society, our societies.
Mhm.
We learn it through the systems, through media, and most importantly, through experience.
Mhm.
But the truth about it is that the good intentions that are there don't cancel out the harmful impact that happens.
Mm.
And so, even as little as yesterday, I actually got to see these biases actually um, lowered yesterday by our candidates and their willingness to talk to them because some of
Mm.
them, mind you, some of the people that we engage with in outreach may be homeless. They may have a smell to them. They may have different things that you can physically see. And I did not see any happen yesterday, and that touched my heart because even just as little as spending more time with people who feel easier to engage can be a heavy weight to somebody.
Absolutely.
And so with that, why do you think that? Why the question I want to pose is why do you think that this topic is hard for outreach workers to talk about honestly?
Hmm.
Um, Outreach workers, I'm gonna assume that we speaking about on the ground people, the people who are
Mhm.
Yes.
completely, yeah. Well, look, I'm a couple of sides to this, right? Because
Mhm.
like I tell y'all all the time, I don't like to speak about things from one point, right? Because
Mhm.
there's things we all do that's contributing to just the bigger picture,
Hmm.
right? But one, those are the people that we're talking about are actually missing from the actual
Right.
conversations, right?
Mhm.
So that's on the behalf of, let's just say, the organizations, but
Hmm.
I'm going to attack organizations, so I'm gonna say the system, right?
Okay.
So that's on the system. But I also speak about the self accountability on this, right? And sometimes, like you said, people aren't born with biases, people aren't born with empowering characteristics either. You
Hmm.
understand what I mean?
Mm.
So when I first started in harm reduction, I started out as a Hep C navigator getting $200 every 2 weeks for 10 hours each of those weeks, really. And I was busting out 40 hours.
Mm.
I didn't know my worth. I thought my worth
Mm.
was y'all took me off like me stinky and all of that, and I could still work. Yeah, that was what I felt my worth was. People had to tell me I was getting underpaid. You
Hmm.
understand what I mean? And I had to ask, and God bless the dead, Tino Fuentes. A lot of the
Mm.
empowering messages in me came from him, but he said it one day where he was like, "Yo, look at everything you're doing.
Yeah.
You understand? Like, what do you mean you're not, this is all you want? Like, he was the one that pushed for me. Well, there was another person, but him and another person pushed for me to get a full-time position. That's what I thought was my worth. But one thing he told me is like, you have to define what kind of man you want to be. You understand?
Mm.
Like, so you're just gonna take anything, or you're gonna be looked at anyway. If that's it, then fine, go about it. But you should always be looking to be put in an empowered position so that once you're good, you could start doing the same for somebody else that's in your current position. So if people aren't putting that in our community members as they provide them services or pull them into like these peer positions, you know what? People are just gonna say, this is what my job is. I know people who've been outreaching for years and they like, I'm doing what I'm destined to do. I'm doing God's work. And I'm like, girl, you don't know that there's so much more out there for you. You understand? So, but if we can't see it in ourselves, then and that's where it starts first, even before everybody else's messaging comes in. If we don't see it in ourselves, then that's the issue. So if I had to look at the whole picture, I would say it's that on both sides of it. Like, so people don't know what their worth is. They don't know what when we talk about diversity and inclusion. When we get to specific neighborhoods, there ain't no such thing as that language. You,
Hmm.
I'm me. Let's survive together. This shit is
Yeah.
hard. You
Yeah.
understand? So if they don't have that language put in them, then they're not even going to focus on it, right? So,
I think you're right, Jose, and I think it goes back to our conversation. I do say organizations more than systems because I think that the organizations, especially organizations that are led by principles like ours, so even if it's not just harm reduction, but organizations that hire and bring in peer support. Just because that person has a peer support certification does not mean that you get to keep them and cap them there. And I'm gonna say this: yes, organizations, I hold every last one of them accountable because I've been in them. I've been at organizations where I've seen that I see the money coming in and everybody in the top is getting paid, and then you're talking about why we have so much turnover at the bottom, and I'm like, well, because everybody on top is getting paid, and that's a slave mentality. I'm making the money off of your work. And because if you don't work, then I have to close this building down. I have to close down the operations. So when leaders that look like me, especially, and I'm talking to y'all, I hope y'all hear me and take it in,
y'all hear
especially
me?
some of these national spaces, right? When you are leading organizations and efforts like this, and you have principles that you follow that are in alignment with meeting people and communities where they're at, then the onus is on you to make sure you are helping to grow and develop people. I took all that lived experience as a leader in a mid management role and saw what was happening. So when we had the opportunity to increase compensation here, it started with our outreach. I was like, we got to start with them because if they don't work here, if they don't participate in this saving lives, if they're not a part of the mission, then guess what happens? We close down. When we ran into an issue that I'm addressing with my board because it's not okay, when we ran into an issue financially and we thought, oh my God, this might be the moment, a pivotal moment for us. The first thing we said was we was gonna tell everybody stop working right now, right? Like you don't bring slave mentality into these spaces. So I hold organizations accountable more so than the system because we already know the system is created not to help us. So that piece I push aside. Yes, I hold the system accountable, but we got to do different things like vote and legislation, change policy. On our side, though, what we do have responsibility and what we're accountable for is ensuring that our people are taken care of.
Yeah. I've heard both of you guys mention talk about the people that are missing.
Yeah.
And so some of those populations are women, people who use drugs, women who use drugs, black and brown communities, the LGBTQ
Mhm.
community, people who don't look like stereotypes, the rural and isolated populations, and people labeled quote unquote difficult. And so sometimes the people we're missing are the ones who need us the most
Mm.
in this outreach mission. And so um, I want to bring this into, as we continue to bring it into a real time, how biases show up in real time. So let's just take this. Let's just take this. Take one. We're out doing outreach, and we approach this group of mixed group. We'll just say mixed group, and there's one person that is the loudest. They the spokesperson for the group, for everybody, and but yet the others are not as loud. So
Mm.
who would you choose first? Who would you engage first?
Who would I engage first and what way? I'm obviously
We're out doing outreach. Out doing outreach.
Oh, I'll engage with anybody, right? So like, look, man, that was my thing when I first started in harm reduction. Like I was telling you, like at one point in time I wanted to be like the king of outreach just because
Okay.
I have a different vision when it comes to my people because I was there,
Right.
I was the person coming up to outreach sites to get services and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So my visions are just very different from people. So but I remember when I would be outreaching, those people who was loud, I would gravitate to them. I still gravitate to loud people because I'm usually a loud person too. If there's a group of 15, more than likely you is me you're gonna hear and from blocks away. Or it's
Okay.
not me being aggressive. It's just that actually means I'm having a good time, right? So
Definitely.
how we don't know that that's the same thing for this person, or when a person gets a certain level of excitement, it's not. So I've never really, I've never really shied away from them. But honestly, if I had to pick who I would talk to first, I would talk to the quieter person first because once again you don't you, the silence sometimes can be deadly, although we was talking earlier, Ryan, and we spoke about how silence can be golden
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes silence can be deadly. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know, that level of things. So I think that I would talk to but not in the sense because I feel like this loud person, I'm afraid of them or whatever. I might even have them join the conversation with
Mm.
me,
Right.
actually, but I will probably talk to the quiet person first for that reason.
What
I
about you,
think
Sharita?
for me, what I've done in those situations, and this is probably because my lens as a clinician shows up a lot, right? So I'm more observant and I watch people. And I will gravitate towards a person that's quiet. But I remember a time being out on outreach with Jennifer when I first started with KYTRC, because I'm one of them people that if something, a new thing that I'm doing is really new to me, I'm not gonna just jump in and just start doing shit because that's where a lot of leaders jack up, in my opinion. From my own experience, watching leaders do shit and don't know what they're doing. So I was out with I was out with her, and there was a quiet, and she was at the site the other yesterday, and you'll know who I'm talking about, Ryan. She was quiet, and she looked to seem in distress. Now, all the other participants that came up, they knew because this obviously was an area where outreach happens a lot. But her, I was like, I asked. first. And so I'm doing modeling for, again, folks that I've seen do shit wrong. Okay. I asked, I said, "Oh, I want to go up to her." Jennifer said, "No." She was like, "In fact, you're going to have to maintain distance." She said, because her defenses being on the street for so long, if she has no engagement with you, then she may come off. And you know, Jose, you know how people now we arresting people because they got aggressive. Well, why would you put your hands on somebody? Why would you
Hmm.
go into their privacy? So what was cool to me was that I respected that, right? I saw her again in distress and I wanted so bad. I'm like, I know I can help her because you know we got egos in this work. Like I'm gonna admit, because people be lying. You know, you be like, oh my God, we get on this savior complex. You're like, I know I can help her. No, no, no. I observed. But after a few times of her seeing me around, she got really close to me one time as she was walking to talk to someone, and I was like, I'm winning. I do agree. I think what Jose said that's most important right here is, which is why we hire and employ people who have very similar experiences. If you've come from this space, utilizing your knowledge of what happens out here is very imperative. You know, I might want to go talk to that one, but because of my skill set, I'm gonna go talk to the one that's probably the most vocal. I tend to gravitate towards people who seem to be more aggressive because those are the ones that people get scared of. And I know from clinical skills that I'm not going to walk up on them. I'm going to speak to them the way. I know that I'm going to use tones that are going to be soothing versus getting on top of them. I know if they're pacing back and forth, I know the body language that's building up, right? I know what's going on. I know how to also say, listen, I'm gonna leave something right over here. I saw that you were over in that area. I'm gonna leave it here. If you want it, you want it. If you don't worry about it. You know who I am. You'll see me again. And as I'm walking away, I see the walk towards it. Right. So I tend to pay attention. I recommend if you don't have the experience, again, don't jump in because you want to be a savior. Listen to that first part. I think that was key, Ryan. What Jose said is that I know this space. I've been there. So letting those folks lead, which takes us back to how do people get in the spaces? Well, Jose's a leader. Jose's a leader because I'm not about to be like, follow me and we go to hell,
Okay.
right?
Blind leading the blind.
Blind, right? Like I'm gonna make you follow me because of my title, but your role says, no, I'm gonna let you. Where do I go? How do I move over here? Right?
And then I don't know how it is, my fault, but I don't know if
Great
how
point.
it is out in Kentucky or how it was, but at one point in time, like, the community that we be, providing services to, those was the community that was deemed like hard to reach. And the thing was,
Difficult
it
people.
was, those was terms coming from people from outside of
Right.
where we're from, right? And this is why now we hire, people with lived experience. In New York, we have like a outreach model. It's a PDSE, peer delivered syringe exchange, which is an organization grabs a community member, loads them with supplies, and they walk, or they on foot though, and like these, really intense environments. So like a really
Ooh.
good area is like Hunts Point, where there's a lot going on over there, and safety is a so they will walk through that area and they will be communicating with people. But the thing is that PDSC is usually has to be a community member, not even usually, because you have to walk through these areas. So think about how I said that person who's aggressive, I'm used to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a person's not used to it, how do you think they're gonna look at them? These
Mm-hmm.
terms came from people that's not from the community. This is why you would rarely hear me talk about substance use disorders or
Right.
any of those terms that label our community a certain way, because I don't have that view the way other people do. I now when I even now I walk through the community like nothing, talking to my people like nothing. You understand? And it's because I'm from here. How many of the people who are responsible for even putting these labels on our people can actually say that, you know?
Mhm.
And not the gentrified Brooklyn either. You know, like the hood Brooklyn. How many of y'all can say that y'all still do that now? That kind of mentality. Not a lot of people do. This is why we need our people and inclusion included in these spaces because we want to be able to tell you this. You know,
Right. And so listening to what you just said, and us transitioning into how to interrupt these implicit biases.
Mm.
How do we interrupt? And I know, yeah, take a sip because I know you're gonna have a lot to say on this. Okay. So what do we do? One of the things I wrote down some things that we really can do, and then I'm gonna ask you a question about it. So the first thing is to slow down our assumptions, and we talk about this a lot here. Slowing down our assumptions, asking ourselves, what am I assuming right now, or
Mhm.
what evidence do I actually have? So
Mhm.
slowing down our assumptions, expanding our outreach zones. I know here we have a list of zip codes that we go and we go and do outreach and we survey. And so be going beyond our usual routes and visit less visible spaces, and like the encampments and places like that. Thirdly, track who we are serving, tracking that. So who are you seeing regularly, and but who's also missing from this data? And
Mhm.
especially working in admin, good gracious, I'm always adding something to our forms, okay, to make sure that we are meeting everybody.
Mhm.
Fourthly, building cultural humility, listening more than speaking, and not just awareness, but active learning.
Mhm.
Fifthly, practice consistency over comfort. And we get out, our outreach team goes out there, rain, sleet, and snow. And we have making sure, but we want to show that consistency, that we are there and care. And then lastly, checking our language. So replacing those labels that we talked about, replace labels with curiosity,
Mhm.
shifting from non-compliant to what barriers exist. And
Mhm.
so with those six things, I want to ask, um, how can organizations create space for honest conversations about this? Because we're talking about interrupting these implicit biases. How can organizations or agencies create space for honest conversations about this?
yeah, 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 yeah. This is there's a lot I can say about this. You know, something that we speak about a lot is, you know, when people get to a certain level and
Mhm.
I'll keep it basic in an organization, their
Mhm.
work on the ground stops, right? And we
Mhm.
see that a lot, you know. So first, there's recognizing that. My first job in harm reduction was for St. Anne's Corner Harm Reduction, right? It was started by Joyce Rivera. Joyce Rivera was pregnant as hell when she was outreaching and all of that, like establishing St. Anne's. And this is at a time when harm reduction wasn't anything. You know, it was like a set amount of certain people that was, actually advocating for it. And one thing that I liked about Joyce is that 25 years after, she's the ED, she's established as legendary in NYC, you understand, at least, at minimal, and she's known across the country. Proud Puerto Rican woman too, Um, she would still come out outreaching with us. Like not every day, obviously, because big boss got to do big boss things. But she
Mhm.
will come out and she will be out there with us sometimes, standing, chilling, talking with everybody. Everybody knew her. They call her La Doña, which means the boss. You know what I mean? But everybody loved her for that reason. You know, like, and at one point, our leaders stopped doing that, right? And then if when you do that, that means that your ear ain't to the ground.
Mm.
Neither is your nose. And we got a little saying that if your ears ain't to the ground, that means your nose is in the air. And if you know what that means, if someone's nose is in the air, you understand what I
Like
mean? And
that.
so the thing
No, who
is
ain't to the ground? Your
how
nose. Let me put that
so
in.
so like think about it like this. And I'm talking about in an organization, typically, this is what it looks like. It's the people providing the services. Then there's the people managing them. There's the people required to think about policy, applying for funding, and all of that. And then there's the leadership, right?
Mm.
Who is responsible for all of that. Now, the people applying for funding and leadership, once they start actually continuing that community work, being there on the ground to see what is needed,
Mm.
everything else kind of shifts because you start noticing different things. But the thing is once again, the work you involve yourself in, the way you involve yourself in it, that's the issues that's going to come up for you, right? So for a lot of them, they don't see that as an issue. They see lack of funding or funding that doesn't speak to the community as the issue, and that's the problem. I saw that shit in COVID. In COVID, yo, man, yo, not every organization, but most organizations limited or stopped their stuff. And
Hmm.
in the area I was outreaching in, there wasn't a lot of people outreaching there at all. You
Okay.
understand? So now when we going on these like Zoom calls, because this is how people started communicating after this, all we hear people talk about, oh my God, we got a cut in funding, we got this, we got that, all funding related. Nobody said nothing about how the people that was there on the streets was sleep. There was like literally reusing syringes because they didn't have nowhere to access them at. Sanitation stopped in the South Bronx, so there was feces and garbage all over.
Mm.
They deliberately pulled out the benches to deter people from sleeping on the streets, gated the park. Even the shelter system limited they and at one point wasn't accepting no new people into their spaces. So there was people who all they had was the streets, the trains. They was had police patrolling the trains to make sure nobody was sleeping in the stations or the trains and stuff. So you mean to tell me out of all of this that's going on, you just worried about funding?
Hmm.
But and look, and I say it like this: a lot of people be like, "Oh, you think too nice, or you talk too nice about it." Look, maybe what it is that people don't see it, so that their mind's not on it. But I refuse to, because on the news there was a bunch of people saying, look, people are using openly in the street and all of this and all of this and all of this. The only thing they could talk about was the funding. Nobody could talk about the whys, the people who are going
Right.
to continue. And they wonder why, because most of my work is Hep C, why we went from seeing 4,500 people, and in 1 year that got cut by more than 50%. We started seeing like 2,000 people or something like that. And that
Mm.
just started picking up over the like last year, the year before, if anything, right? So it's like priorities are not in the right place where they supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like they really not.
Whew. You said a lot there, Jose, and
I
I
got more to say. I'm being
I
nice.
know, I
Okay.
know, and I agree with you. That's part of the reason why it was so important for me to do a special edition for the candidates to show up because they don't see it. You know, one of the candidates that did show up, she had a problem. Okay, she had a problem because we made the candidate speak. Now, I did say this was an opportunity for our candidates to listen and hear, but I don't think she understands conversation. And when I say listen, I mean that when they ask a question, that you listen instead of offering a solution in that moment, and talk about your real plans. And one of her questions to one of our team members with the other organization was, are these people in recovery? Are these people? And I was so triggered. I made sure I didn't talk to her because I still am the ED of this organization, and I didn't want to say anything that would get us in a lot of trouble. So I steered clear and I saw she got to talking to my team and I was like, cool, I don't want to talk to her.
Thanks,
Yes.
because I was one of them.
But when I say that was intentional, because it's exactly what you said. These are the folks, some of these folks just got their voting rights reinstated. They don't understand all the things that we get to read about. I was even learning about stuff about the new data center that's going to be put up that could blow up. Like I was learning all this information that I didn't even know from one of the candidates, Sean Spencer, who's running for Metro Council seat, District 3. And she was explaining things to me that I don't quite understand when it's in messaging online. And I share that because when we're interrupting biases, is always going to be an active step. And I think what you highlight is the complacency in leadership. I thought of this at the beginning of the year as this being an idea because we have to actively do things to stop those implicit biases from creating poor legislation like charging houseless individuals with, encampment issues, right? We have to actively, one thing I love about vocal is these are not just people who are sitting at desks going to these metro council meetings and holding signs and speaking to the legislators and the policymakers. These are actual people in the community who are
Mhm.
living the thing. The reason why why they brought down the fines was because a former houseless individual who's on the other side of this was able to speak to that. And they brought it down, not a whole lot. First of all, how you gonna find somebody who ain't got the money to pay you that? If that anything, they're gonna pay something in their personal life.
Right.
So you gotta actively, it's not a passive thing. It's not just writing an op-ed. I can write an op-ed, or you gotta actively be engaged. Our city, Louisville Metro Police Department, put out a call to action to the community. I got it from an organizer's page to please give community feedback. What started as a community feedback to a few of the policies turned into a whole 18-page paper that I wrote. I'm like, I'm in school for my PhD. I'm going to take these skills and I'm going to actively engage. We cannot break down biases. We cannot force people to pause because what Brian is talking about is something we all practice here daily. That's a new behavior. Oh, wait a minute. I'm coming in, I'm responding, reacting to this colleague of mine. Is it me? Is it something that I'm thinking? I'm talking about changing culture. If I say I don't want people just to keep getting terminated or quitting, I can't just pay people. I can't just get them a bunch of fucking trainings and train them to death. I have to model the behavior daily. Oh, I screwed up. Let me apologize publicly to my colleagues. Hey, I'm so sorry. I know I came in. I know I did. We have to actively do that. And that's the only way, in my opinion, is to demonstrate. People don't understand by writing only.
Wow. Um, this was good. This was good.
Let you simmer on that, huh? Right?
Okay, listen,
Me and Shrita together, we like stone, flint, and wood. I tell you that
yo,
much.
when I
We
tell you,
create fire. I tell you that much.
so as we start to wrap things up, um, the last thing that I wanted to point out is that harm reduction roots start with inclusion. Harm reduction roots start with inclusion. It's the core of harm reduction. And so, not just serving people, but making sure that no one is invisible. Everybody matters. Everybody matters. Everyone deserves the first chance, not just the second, not just the
Mhm.
third, the fourth, but the first chance. And so that looks like meeting people where they are, even when it challenges you. Building trust with those who don't trust easily, and then lastly, showing up without conditions. Because the truth is that biases create barriers, and
Mm.
harm reduction is about removing them. And so, lastly, before we go, we're gonna do a rapid fire with you, Jose, real quickly. And so you can just spit out the first thing that comes to mind. One word that describes effective outreach.
Oh, knowledge.
Okay. One practice every outreach worker should adopt.
Mm.
Um, one practice. Damn, that's tough. You know what? I will keep it on. I think inclusion is a practice that all of our people should, no one left behind. We all kind of gotta like, stick together kind of. So probably that inclusion piece. Yeah.
And lastly, one group we need to prioritize right now.
Oh, if I had to pick one, it will probably be the damn, can I have like a tie? I
Okay,
kind
me too.
It's
Okay,
like
me too.
the LGBTQ community most definitely have been the number one target for these last 3 years, and I actually are the target for these executive orders, if we're
Hmm.
being honest. And the black community, you know.
Most definitely. Before we go, Jose, you just started something new, didn't you? We want to hear about it real
Go
quickly.
ahead, Jose.
Hey, thanks, y'all. Yes, I just started, I call it a talk platform because I don't want to lean into that podcast kind of thing because I want to do a lot of things. I want to have these conversations like is happening by any means, like how is these discussions that people are shying away from, they're scared to speak about for whatever reasons. I'm not scared. You understand what I
Right.
mean? And I personally, I love this whole movement because it gave me a chance. I love the people in it, and I don't want nobody forgotten. I don't want no conversations to be taboo. So that's what Here We Talk About It is about. The first episode was this Friday that passed, and it will be every first Friday of the month from 6 to 8 or 9, depends, however the conversations go. But every month we'll have a different conversation that we talk about. Like on May 1st, our next session, we're gonna is a session called Family Matters, and we're gonna discuss
Can't wait
what the role of
to hear
family
that.
members in harm reduction, because I'm
Woo.
about inclusion. I'm about bringing all our people, and I think I personally believe there's a role for everybody, and that
Mhm.
is definitely some a group in public health that has been like kind of like it's had like good and bad reactions, usually both on the extremes. And I just want to draw a picture of where we all gonna be together. That we all need to be together in this movement. So every conversation is different, and yeah, man, how it starts is no conversation is taboo.
Yeah.
Simple. It's just simple like that.
How can the people reach you?
You can reach me. All right, so on two different ways. If you want training from my organization, National Harm Reduction Coalition, you can always email me at martinez@harmreduction.org or training@harmreduction.org. If you want to reach out to me on a personal level, like maybe to be on here, we talk about it, maybe to discuss any, consultation things, you can reach me on jmartinez862 at gmail.com, or here we talk about it at gmail.com.
Woo. Thanks, bro.
Thank you, Jose. Listen, we're gonna check out with you at once we come off. So stay in the
Stage.
waiting room
Yeah.
for us so we
Thanks
could
for
get the
having me. Thanks for having me.
no
Yes,
problem.
indeed.
What a
Ooh.
great conversation. I'm so glad we were able to do that with Jose, especially after his um, first. Here we talk about it. I think he had a lot of people on there. It was dope. And we
Yeah.
were on there for a long time, but it felt like a short time because we were in the conversation. So definitely want people to check it out. Um, so dope.
Um, Before we go, I want to challenge everybody. I want to
Mhm.
challenge everybody. Um, in your time of just reflecting, even in your time of work, um, I want to challenge you to what's something outreach workers don't want to admit but need to hear. And you could even write them down because this ain't even maybe even something that you could possibly help with. But what's something that outreach workers don't want to admit but need to hear? And if you could challenge every outreach team listening right now, what would you say?
Mm.
What would you say? And lastly, what does it really look like to meet people where they are when it's uncomfortable? Listen, the work has to get done, whether it's comfortable or not. To me, if it's not uncomfortable, then you ain't making no noise for real.
You ain't you actually just background noise.
You ain't got no motion, as the young folks say now. You ain't got no motion. Okay, you're cooked. Okay, you're cooked. Well, Sharita, it's about that time. You know we don't want
Yes, I
to.
appreciate you putting them in the work. Jose did give you a shout out on his Here We Talk About It.
Oh,
He's also on YouTube too, so you'll
yes,
be able to. And when he goes live, we'll share it on our spaces as well.
most definitely.
This next topic is going to be pretty profound. I know a couple of the people. I think we know one person that's going to be on it with Jose. So I'm excited, and it's so cool to sit back and listen to people chop it up, real talk,
Real talk.
just like we do here at BAM. So thank you, Ryan, for putting it all together, making sure that we're on it, on top of everything.
Indeed, most definitely. Well, it's always a pleasure, always wonderful to have this conversation. And listen, know that you got the power. You got the power to change. You got the power to encourage and uplift. And you got the power to do the outreach part, even if it's just taking out a case of water and going and serving the community with the water. That's what Jesus did. He went and gave out the necessities. And listen, you got it. So, Sharita, again, happy birthday to you.
Thank
And
you.
listen, thank y'all for joining By Any Means podcast. See y'all again on April the 30th.